Coach, just overall reaction of where you guys are and the position that you're in.
Well, hey, it's when you get to the NCAA tournament, first of all, it's a great accomplishment for these guys, and most importantly is we got to recognize that in this tournament anything can happen. Last year we were a number 4 seed and knocked off the top seed, so that's how close it is. It's like the Sweet 16 in basketball. If you just pick the top 16 teams in basketball, you know how tough of a tournament would start with, and that's what college hockey's all about. So it'll be a big challenge for us, but these guys have been resilient, and I think all year long we've respected our opponent, and that'll be the same case this weekend.
And that's a good point too, for you guys to be a 4 seed, eliminate a 1 seed. So you know that from experience that these guys can't have that mindset of just being a 1 seed. Oh, hey, we can move on.
Yeah, I think that in my early years here, I felt like maybe we fell into that trap a little bit. I know we lost to Bemidji one year that we were a real high seed, and another time that we had to go to, I think, double overtime against Alabama Huntsville, which had a profound effect on the next night against Michigan State. So you can never take anything for granted. Everything gets magnified when you get to the NCAA tournament. Last night was a great example of the magnification of face-offs. Because the last shift of the game last night, we lost a face-off that could have ended up in our net, and Kale made the save, and then the Suey face-off, we scored the game-winning goal. So things like that are magnified in a big way when you get to the NCAA tournament.
And then just that matchup with Michigan Tech, the challenge that's going to be over in Bridgeport this weekend.
Well, I know Joe Shawn real well. He's a really good coach. I was glad to see Joe get that job up there. He was on one of my first teams when I was an assistant coach at Lake Superior State. He was one of our goaltenders, and I've known Joe for years. He's coached in Sault Ste. Marie and junior hockey, and I'm glad to see he's finally gotten his shot to be a head coach in college hockey, and he's obviously showed his worth this past year at Michigan Tech. What he's accomplished is a pretty special thing, because I don't think people were expecting a lot out of that team once Mel Pearson left, but I knew when they hired Joe that wasn't going to be the case, and he's obviously proved that. And they'll be an older team, and I'm sure they're going to be a tough team to play against. They always are.
We kind of talked, at certain points throughout the year of how last season ended and just the drive that they had throughout the season, but now that it is actually NCAA tournament time, does that focus ramp up even more for your guys?
Yeah, we can't focus on the result. We have to focus on the process, and it's going to be about having a good week of practice and then being prepared to play on Friday, and that's the only game that matters right now. You're in one and done season right now, and we have to embrace that. We have to just focus on the one game that we have, and we'll worry about what happens after that. But right now it's just about Friday.
Coach, can you elaborate a little bit more on your relationship with Joe? He learned under you, and now you're going to be coaching against him now. Have you spoken to him? I know we stole you right after the selection show and stuff, but
no, I've talked to Joe a couple times this year, but I think that I've known him. He was coaching junior hockey when I was still up at Lake Superior State, and like I said, my first year at Lake Superior State, I was the assistant coach there, and Joe was one of the 3 goaltenders. And I got to know Joe real well. He was in a similar situation when I played, being that third guy, and it's a tough role to take, especially for a senior. And and he was, I think, a real astute, student of the game. And he used to come watch us practice all the time when he was coaching juniors in the Sioux. Then he was fortunate to get a job, up at Michigan Tech, and then he became the head coach there. And he's paid his dues. He reminds me a lot of me. Because I had a very similar career as far as playing and then coaching, and there's a lot of similarities between him and I and how we came up through the game. And we weren't star players, and we were third-string goalies, and he had to work for everything he's gotten, and eventually he got his chance, and he's taken advantage of it this year. So I'm happy for him. I'm glad to see that he's having some success up there, and it's like, that's when you start knowing you're older, when you're facing some of your former players as coaches. And I'm going to have one of my former players' kids here in a few years. So it's part of the enjoyment of coaching, because it's about relationships.
And just to comment on those Big Ten numbers, they mentioned it on the show, how many Big Ten teams were in the tournament this year and just how well the conference did.
Well, the conference was really tough. I mean, we had a good run in the middle of the year, which really propelled us to the top. But, we found out in the second half how really good the conference is. It was that way in the first half, too. We were just very fortunate to get bounces and win games that some nights maybe we didn't deserve to win. A lot of that had to do with our goaltending and K.L. Morris. But we won through those games, and I think it toughened us up. And then, January and February probably – it may have hurt us in some ways, but it might have helped us to realize we got to play a different style. We got to play a little bit better without the puck, and we can't just rely on our goaltender. And it's harder to score goals this time of the year. And I think that the bye week, as much as I was concerned about the competitive aspect of it, might have been a real good thing for us mentally to reset. And I thought we played well last week against Penn State, and then against Ohio State last night, I thought we played well, not for the entire game, but you got to give credit to the opponent too, because Ohio State's probably as good a team as there is in the country. So, we were fortunate to win that game, but I'm good where we are. At least we're going into the tournament with a little bit of confidence.
Jeff, talk a little bit about Michigan Tech, like Princeton, which is coming on a roll. Michigan Tech's on a pretty good roll. I mean, where they had a win on the road to win the title.
Well, hey, listen, we've all struck gold in different ways, and Joe obviously struck gold with an injury to his number one goalie, and he puts in his backup, and he's standing on his head, and that's a big part of why they're winning. But he's got an older team. He's got a good gritty team that's going to be challenging for anybody. But it's the same thing. Talk about Princeton, I would say the same thing. I know Frank Serratori well. I mean, Air Force is going to be a tough out. I mean, just like we were a tough out last year as a 4 seed. In this tournament, you're going to face teams that are coming off of success and confidence, and hopefully we're in that same mode. But there's no easy win in the NCAA tournament. It's always a challenge, and just to get to the next game is going to be a challenge, let alone thinking about getting to the Frozen Four.
Have you guys played in Bridgeport before?
A couple of years ago, we played UConn there. Yes.
Yeah, and then Brooklyn. That thing.
Yeah, but I spent some time in Bridgeport the year before I came to Notre Dame because we had the NHL lockout, and I was with the Islanders, and the Sound Tigers are the American League team there, so I know the owner there, and I know people in Bridgeport just from my time there.
What schedule-wise this week, since you're playing Friday, that means Thursday you got to do the media stuff and also practice. So you guys will
probably end up taking off Wednesday night.
Wednesday night from
more
here.
than likely.
Okay. Have you had a chance to reflect a little bit more on the game last night and how it went? How key was it for you guys to get that little burst at the end of the third period that you were able to carry over into the overtime?
Well, just like every game at this time of the year, momentum dictates everything. We had momentum in the early part of the game. They had momentum in the middle part of the game, and we found a way to get it back at the end of the game and then into overtime. And but our team's been resilient all year long. I mean, we've had to play from 2 goals down. We've had to play with 2 goals up. And 2-goal lead's the worst lead in hockey. And it showed up again last night, but we were able to recuperate and get our feet back underneath us. And, if I could bottle that first period, and do it for 60 minutes, that would be ideal going into the NCAA tournament.
Was that as good a first period as you guys have had?
Against a quality opponent like that, yes.
And again, then the crowd that you had here last night, it's nice to know that they showed up and made a lot of noise.
Well, first of all, I can't say enough about our band, because those kids are on spring break too, and for them to come back here, they energize this building. Matt Merton and that band is so special to this team and our program. I can't say enough about what they do to encourage other students to get back here. Obviously we had women's basketball, men's basketball, we had lacrosse going on. There are a lot of positive things going on campus, and there was a fair amount of kids that came back too, the students, But our season ticket holders and the people in this community have supported us really well, especially in the second half this year. And frankly, I think the format, going to the Big Ten was positive because people know Ohio State, people know Penn State, and plus we're playing a single game as opposed to a best of 3 where it's hard to fill a building 3 straight nights in the playoffs. I like the best of 3 in a lot of ways, but you know, people are not going to come to 3 straight games in most cases. Only the diehards will come to 3 straight games, you know. So the single game, you know, it worked in our favor being at home, obviously. I might not feel that way a year from now, but, you know, for me, I think it created a great environment. It's so much better than playing in a big building that's half full or less than half full. So, you know, kudos to the people that made that decision in the Big Ten, and I know the coaches were involved in that too, but, you know, I think that the playoff structure, you know, has led to, you know, making it an exciting game last night, and a big part of that was the crowd.
The only thing about the post game, I guess, here's your best player, gets two assists in the game, and he's not on the all tournament team. You know, he makes the two big plays for it, and it's
he's a humble kid.
Yeah.
You know, he's captain for a reason. You know, he was first team all Big Ten, so people know what kind of player he is, and he's got his accolades, and you know, the most important one is wearing that C.
How about health-wise? You know, with Bo's hurt.
Bo's probably out. You know, we're just, you know, waiting to get a final opinion from the docs on him after sleeping on it. So we'll see.
Okay.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.